You've wanted toughness for years. How about a goal line stand and then 4 minutes of smash mouth football? Final score, Ohio State 20, Penn State 13 in a sold out 111,030 attendance Beaver Stadium. That's Tim May, the 41-year vet. That's Andy Baxter and Spencer Holbrook. In the immediate aftermath, very immediate aftermath of Ohio State 20, Penn State 13. Tim, first thoughts?
First thoughts are, like you just said, true grit. I mean, that's how you sum up this game. True grit. I mean, they played so tough in the second half on both sides of the ball. They had heartbreak on both sides of the ball in some respects, but Will Howard had a game for the Will Howard threw for every touchdown in this game, including the pick six to start it off.
Yeah,
that's right. But then he rebounded and he rebounded and he rebounded. As we all know, this game could or should have been a lot more lopsided, but it doesn't matter. As we talked about before the game, the only thing that mattered was the W. And oh my goodness, Davis and Igbenogsen's interception. Crazy.
Yeah, Andy, both teams in the first half leave points at the 1 yard line.
Yes.
And then both teams in the second half had chances to score touchdowns. Ohio State's defense came up big. Penn State's defense did too, because Ohio State kicked field goals. So it was a pretty even game, except it wasn't. But again, when they needed it the most, Ohio State kind of gritted its teeth, finally showed that toughness that we've been talking about for so long. I thought it was even tougher than the Notre Dame game when Ryan Day said they were a tough team. I think they didn't have to say it today. It was kind of proven out here on the field.
They ran behind an offensive line that looked different. You had Donovan Jackson slide out from left guard, where he normally is, to left tackle, and he had to deal with Abdul Carter, who beat him a couple times. That's a really good defensive player who might go top 15 in the NFL draft. Overall, Donovan Jackson held his own, and so did Carson Hinsman, who got the start at left guard, his first start since last season when he started at center. Those two were back playing alongside one another again, and it worked really well. They ran for over 150 yards. I think they were even flirting with 200 yards on the ground. And again, as you mentioned, Spencer, towards the end of that game, they just did everything they needed to on the ground. Quinshon Judkins played really well today. Travion Henderson had some key runs, and Will Howard clinched the game poetically with a slide, this time at the right moment.
Yeah, I said on the radio this morning on a pregame show, I said what made sense was Carson Hinsman to start this game, because he started 11 games or 12 games last year. You would have a starting lineup across that line of guys who were all starters last year, wherever they were, except for Tegra Shabola, who's now started 9 games. Yeah, I can't do the math right now. My head's still spinning. Bottom line is, it made all kinds of sense for Hinsman to play. And what did I say? If Ohio State won this game, whoever started left guard was going to be what I said was going to be the offensive MVP by me. And I thought he played very well, considering he's played very, very few plays this year, and clearly not played a whole game. I thought he held up extremely well. Carson Hinsman.
I can't believe you just said that he ended the game with a slide again. That is just perfect.
It was poetic.
I guess
not what I said, what he did.
Yeah, I guess I didn't put that together until now, because they would have ran for 200 yards, and the only reason I have my phone out is because I'm looking at some stats here just to give us some clarity.
Give me Quinshon too.
Quinshon Judkins.
94 yards.
94 yards.
That was close.
On 95 yards on 14 carries. Just an incredible game for him. Rushing yards, 177. Listen, guys, they ran for 200 yards. You know why I know that? Because if Will Howard didn't slide, he was scoring a touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
So that was definitely going to put him over 200 yards. It's not just the big names who came up big when it mattered. It was Brandon Inniss catching a touchdown pass, extending another drive with a 3rd and 9 catch for 10 yards. It was Caden McDonald and Hero Kanu and CJ Hicks in there on that goal line stand at the end of the game. Tyleek Williams is not in the game on a goal line stand when you need one the most.
Just been helped off.
And for the 3rd straight game, this team sees somebody on the 1 or 2 yard line, puts its foot in the dirt and says, you are not getting another yard, you're not scoring a touchdown here. It is remarkable what this defense can do on the goal line. I would be terrified to be a team on the goal line against this team.
And the guy I thought that led that charge, it was in on a couple of plays, but still led just the plug in the middle of the field was Ty Hamilton. I mean, what a tremendous goal line stand by him. Jalen Tuimoloau, he came up big today in several occasions.
Yeah, he played really well.
Caleb Downs made some stops. He also helped make one of the stops on the goal line stand. I mean, right on down the line. But I'm telling you, fellas, that Davis and Igbenogsen play was so huge at the end of the half.
It happened right here.
Right here.
Right here.
Not only did they not get a touchdown out of that play, he gets the interception on a fade route. They get no points. That was a goal line stand in many respects. It was so huge a game for them not to score going into halftime, and of course Ohio State comes out. It was always going to be a grudge match of field goals in the second half. You could just feel it, and it was.
You could field it, if you will. The Davison-Igvenosin interception was huge because I thought it was one of the instances where everybody in this stadium, who Tim said before we started recording, they hate James Franklin at this point.
Oh.
They expected points on that drive, and I think James Franklin got stingy. They did get to the 1 yard line, but then he throws a goal line fade.
But you knew the idea there.
And but I mean, you knew now we know the result.
Yeah.
Davison-Igvenosin taking one away and getting the 7 back that Will Howard let go over there. Will Howard, not a great day. We'll be honest. He thinks it was his worst game at Ohio State, but he doesn't care because they won this game. I'm sure he's going to want a lot of things back. I'm sure he's going to want that pick 6 back. But I want to talk to you, Andy, about this. Penn State starts the game 2 possessions in, 1 possession for each team at 10-0. The final score, 20-13. In the final 50 minutes of this game, Penn State had 3 points.
Well, last year's game was a dogfight like that too. I think my dad even called it like trench warfare down there. This was a defensive battle in the second half, and those 2 field goals by Jaden Fielding were huge. He's 5-6 on the season now. Had the missed field goal last week against Nebraska. He had people scratching their heads and is maybe even asking to see the right guy. Stepped up big time today. 46-yard field goal, 39-yard field goal. He squeezed in right along that upright. So that was big for this team in terms of special teams.
Well, you missed 1 field goal. Wow.
That's the stakes you play, right?
I know.
At Ohio State.
I'm just always dumbfounded.
I wasn't questioning it.
Oh, no. I'm just always
saying
dumbfounded.
It was a question. He answered.
The rationale. Yeah.
And
go ahead, though.
I think defensively, they just brought it today. You kind of go down the line of the roster. So many different guys making plays. Caleb Downs had a shoestring tackle there in open space. He's done that so many times this season. Also had a 3rd down tackle. Tyler Warren, they kind of held him in check in terms of receiving. He was actually the leading rusher for Penn State.
Yeah.
They did a really good job of taking the Penn State receivers out of the game. They're not the biggest names in the Big Ten, but still something that's notable. And they really limited Katron Allen and Nick Singleton on the ground, which was, I thought, the key defensively for this game, and they were able to accomplish that.
Yeah, Katron Allen. Tim, I'll save these stats real quick because these are remarkable, to be honest. Katron Allen, 12 carries, 27 yards, average of 2.2. Nicholas Singleton, 6 carries, 15 yards, average 2.5. That sounds like the Ohio State offensive work from last week against Nebraska, and instead Ohio State did it on the road to the number 3 team in the country, not to mention Drew Aller, 12 of 20 for a $146 and the pick to Davison here. This was as dominant of a defensive effort as you're going to see in a top 5 matchup anymore, because these kind of games, these top 5 matchups, they usually become shootouts. And this one did not because of the Ohio State defense.
Yeah, but Penn State, Ohio State has rarely become that. You know what I mean?
They've 2 years ago was an anomaly out here.
Yes. They just become weird games. And, Ryan Day summed it up when I asked him about that at the end of the press conference. I mean, there were just some weird plays out here today, but huge plays in retrospect. And we've already touched on most of them. But the bottom line is, I remember walking and talking with Joey Bosa leaving the field in 2014 here when he had the shove sack, to seal that overtime win. Ohio State goes on with a loss on its resume already. Ohio State goes on and wins the first college football playoff national championship. This game had that feel of the same roller coaster getting over that little hill, and now it may start going down. If you follow my drift, I'm talking about picking up speed. And because Ohio State has a kind of a schedule now to pick up speed, right?
Yes.
I mean, next big thing on the marquee, Ohio State hosts Indiana the week before it hosts Michigan. But I have that same kind of feel about this team. They found themselves. They figured out a way to win a rough, tough, rugged football game, and you could sense the relief on Ryan Day. Just his demeanor, his speech, his face after this game.
I'm going to give you one closing thought, and then I'll close with a little bit of wraparound with what Tim just said about Ryan Day.
Well, I think this game has huge implications. They're very much alive in the Big Ten title race. They just need to, at this point, win the rest of the games. They'll be in that game in Indianapolis. That's huge.
Yeah.
Also, it's huge for, in turn, college football playoff seeding. Because you could lose this game and still make the 12-team playoff, but you wouldn't have that first round bye. So the implications of this game,
of course,
are massive.
Ryan Day let you know that before the week started.
Right.
Yeah.
He said a trip to Indianapolis was on the line. And I think the scary thing, optimistic thing for Ohio State fans, scary thing for other teams around the country is that I don't think Ohio State's played its best game yet.
No.
If you look back at this game, there were a couple deep balls there that Will Howard couldn't connect on. I think one was not a great throw. The other one I think was a good throw, and I don't think that
Jeremiah slowed down.
Yeah, he slowed down around 20.
That would have been such a backbreaker.
Right. He fumbled through the end zone, Will Howard did. Of course, the pick six. So they'll play back through, but really this game could have been 28-3, 21-3 at least.
I mean, even 28-10 or 20-17 because of the takeaway here by Davison Igbinosun. Like, this could have gotten to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Guys,
in general.
You're going to go nuts running all these numbers, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to Tim's point. It was a crazy game. But my point is that we still have yet to see Ohio State's best game, and the fact that they won this today is a good feat to have under your belt.
Let me ask one quick thing for you to go to wrap up, though. But where would you rate this in terms of the Ohio State defense today? I thought it came up huge. It gave up zippo touchdowns.
Yeah.
The Ohio State defense.
It gave up 6 points.
I did that little slow play on purpose there.
Yeah.
It gave up. You see what I'm talking about? I mean, this defense is for real.
I think it is, Tim. I think this is the best. This is the best performance Ohio State has registered as a defense in the Jim Knowles era. And the reason that I say
Against
that,
a like opponent.
well, no,
sure.
but the reason I say that is because the opponent, the stakes, the atmosphere, the backs against the wall nature of
the
already
largest crowd in Beaver Stadium history.
Yeah, of already having a loss, like all of those factors. For me, this is Jim Knowles' like to date his magnum opus. Now he's got to have more of them. He has to have more. But so far, this is as good as it gets for him, and he did it against the number 3 team in the country on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. They needed to step up. Like, this was the answer for the defense the last couple of weeks after the Oregon game, and they have stepped up. Again, this is a Penn State offense that so far this year had been more explosive. It looked like last year's game in that way, but Drew Aller had been better. This rushing offense had been more explosive. They came in with 7 plays of 40 or more yards from scrimmage this year. There was a lot of windrow dressing today by Andy Koltenecki in that offense, but Ohio State's defense kind of snuffed that out, especially at the goal line with the pulling tackle. There was a lot going on, but they were able to hold things in check and step up when they needed to.
I think we're about to get run over by a gator here, but
wrap it up.
We're going to wrap it up. Last thing, this is the first time I think I've seen Ryan Day smile since September 28th when they went on the road and beat Michigan State, and he really didn't have a lot of reason to smile for that one. But he was certainly smiling after this one. He had to make his way through all the media. He was definitely feeling it, and they're going to party in Columbus tonight. I'm just letting you know. He said they were going to enjoy it. They got Purdue next week. Might be a little bit of a hangover game, but Purdue's not very good, so they don't really have to worry about that.
Hey, all you got to do is win now.
Absolutely. Ohio State 20, Penn State 13. Top 5 matchup lived up to the billing and then some. Ohio State pulls out a gritty, tough, hard-nosed victory over the Penn State Nittany Lions here in Beaver Stadium. That's the 41-year vet Tim May. That's Andy Backstrom. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Like the video below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Helps us out a ton. We'll see you back in Columbus for the Monday after this fantastic matchup, and we'll see you over at LettermenRow.com.